Welcome to Rock That Relationship, a podcast about all things relationship with Corey and Tracy.
Now let's get real and start creating relationships that rock.
Welcome to Rock That Relationship. We are here today talking all about getting clarity. This is part of our series on getting unstuck from jobs or careers or relationships or locations or life situations, whatever that might look like. But today we're really looking at getting clarity as a way of getting unstuck. So this is going to be a fun episode because it's just Tracy and I, which is always just fun because we're fun, and getting a chance to talk a little bit about Tracy's situation with her kind of career calling. And we've been exploring this for a few of the episodes in this season, and we're going to kind of dive deeper into that and then share with you some other examples of things that we've tried, we know might help you get clarity. All right, how are you feeling about it today? You ready to get some clarity?
I am. Are you going to bring clarity to me, or am I already supposed to have clarity that I'm just supposed to discuss?
You're just going to report on your clarity. I'm going to help you. I'm going to use some of these tools that we're going to talk about. I'm going to use these tools in order to help you get some more clarity about your career situation. Okay? So for our listeners out there, use these tools. Try these tools. Some of them might work. Some of them might not. Take what you want and leave what you don't. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about with getting clarity is this idea of exploring values and desires. It's hard to get clarity about what you want if you don't know what's important to you. Right. And I mean, it seems like really easy, right? Like basic, of course, duh. Why wouldn't we want to know what's important to us? But a lot of times we think something is important to us, but it isn't actually what's the most important.
Yes. I agree.
Have you had that experience where sometimes other people have put in your head what they think is important, or you've had those expectations on yourself? We've talked a little bit about that, but that your values might actually be shaped by other people and not what you really value.
Right. I mean, I think that's the case for everybody, right? We have to have a salary, we have to have benefits, and people put a lot on that. And also there's a lot of people out there say, oh my God, you have to do the safe thing. Don't do the unsafe thing, or don't do the crazy thing. And so I think it really depends on your personality. And like, what can you actually, like, what really, really matters? I mean, obviously it matters to make money and all that, but can you make money in different ways that'll make you happy?
Right. Because making money isn't maybe your only value. And maybe it isn't even making money. Like if we broke that down, right? Making money. Does making money look like wealth where you're traveling on your own private jet? Does it mean something where you're taking lots of vacations? Or does it mean financial freedom where you're not working for someone else? Does it mean having a nest egg for retirement? Like if you were to look at those and you think about making money as a value, what is the most important kind of sub value under that? Why making money? Why is that important to you?
Pay my mortgage, to eat, to survive, to take trips, right? To do the kind of things I want to do in this world. Also to not be somebody else's, like, I'm not beholden to them, or I'm not their, I don't have to do what they say.
Okay. So you hit 3 sub values in that one. You hit survival, and you hit on like adventure and being able to travel and make choice about what you want to do, even if it costs money. And then 3 is not being beholden to anyone else for your financial security and freedom.
Right.
So those are are important to you.
Correct.
Okay. I know some people have values of this. I mean, this would probably be something you and I have talked about it, but making money while you sleep, passive income is doing very little. Even if you make little or make a moderate amount of money, the idea is that working less and just having enough is totally substantial enough for them.
Right. That's hard to do for most people, though. I mean, these are all skills that like someone would have to hone. Most people go to a job, right?
Right.
They go to work. They do hourly work. They're paid by the hour. Yeah.
Well, and they do that and they get survival, and they sometimes get enough to go on vacations. One of the other things about making money is some people want to make money but not have to worry about where it's coming from. So those people are not really.
What does that mean?
Like they're not
interested
in
money without worrying.
Like not being an entrepreneur. You never, like, at least if you have a salary, you know that you're going to get a paycheck for the most part, unless something goes upside down. But for the most part, you know, you don't have to worry about bringing in clients or patients or customers. You don't have to worry about how many things are sold. You just show up every day and somebody pays you. Whereas, like, if you're an entrepreneur, if you don't get enough, you know, oil changes in your mechanic shop, you're freaking out about not being able to pay your electric bill.
Right.
So some people like the peace of mind of, they'd say, I'd rather work for someone, be beholden to them, but then also have less worry.
True. Some people want to work for the government and have more like stability, right? I used to have a very stable job, very hard to get fired from, and a lot of benefits to that. It didn't make as much as, you know, the private sector, although it does now if you're doing overtime, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so if we're going to explore values and desires, we just talked about the one around making money, because this is the thing. If you're listening here, I want you to take the value that you've thought of that's really important to you in whatever context and break it down into sub-values. What specifically about that value is important to you? Because making money is pretty much important to most everybody who needs to live. But the elements of making money are going to be really, really different. So here's some ways that you can actually try to figure out what your values are. There's an actual exercise. You can Google it. They're called values rank exercises, where you actually can rank values that are important to you. And then you can see, okay, so if, say, spontaneity is more important than stability, maybe having a job that isn't 8 to 5 every day that looks the same is not going to align with what you want to do, but maybe something a little bit more seasonal.
Right.
So doing a values rank is really cool. Here's another one I like to do. This one is flipping a coin. This is a really cool one. So say, Tracy, say you were deciding between quitting your job and staying in your job.
I've done this my whole life. Yes, I've flipped a lot of coins, and then that's how I make big decisions.
Yes.
Not recommended.
No, this is not the typical flipping of the coin, though.
Okay.
This is an intuitive coin flipping exercise. So you say you assign heads to, I'm going to quit my job. You flip the coin and it lands on heads, and you feel like you're going to throw up, then that's probably the wrong decision. Don't do what the coin says. Do what your body says. It's a really interesting way to get a very quick somatic response from your body with decision making. So however the coin lands, if you're like, yes, that's what I was hoping it would land on, then all of a sudden you know your decision. It has nothing to do with the coin itself.
Right.
It's a somatic exercise. It's really cool.
That's way smarter.
Well, yeah, if you just
the way I did it.
You just flipped it.
And then I do 2 out of 3, and then I'm like, okay, 3 out of 5.
See, but if you did 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, then you know it didn't land on the one you wanted.
Right. Or the one that made me nervous, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So here's another one, journaling. Journaling, asking yourself some questions. We had a really great episode where we talked about ChatGPT and asking some journal prompts if you want. Basically, what am I most afraid of in doing, making this choice, or what's holding me back?
I still don't really understand how ChatGPT can answer what's in your own brain. Is it just because it gives you questions to ask yourself?
Yes. It doesn't give you the answers. It gives you the questions.
I see.
So you might say, ask me a question that will really get to the heart of why I'm scared about quitting my job.
I see. And then you sit there.
Yep. It asks you journaling questions, and then you can answer those and wow, those are really creative questions. I wouldn't have thought about that.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah. Super cool. Do you ever journal in general? Do you ever find yourself? No?
Nope. Can't do it. Number one, I would be embarrassed to read it later. And 2, I can't really write anymore. It looks like a child wrote it. I guess I write the poems. I'm into poetry, as you know, but I use a specific pen for that, and it's very short. The poems are short. So I don't think I could journal. And then if I'm doing it on a computer, it doesn't feel like journaling to me. It feels like writing a story. You know what I mean? Journaling, I make my lists in my journal. I just, made my manifest list, and I have been doing that about work. I mean, I did that letter, the resignation letter that I never sent. And then 2 days after I wrote that, I was in a meeting where I was asked if I even liked what I was doing. And I said, no, and I want to do something else. And that was proposed to me. So is that journaling? Kind of, right?
Well, yeah. I think when I read your resignation letter in particular, there was a lot in there that I don't know. I mean, you might, but I know that some people wouldn't have sent that version to their employer because there was a lot of really kind of process oriented things in there. But for you, it was getting it out on paper, and then it just sort of clarified, I think, really what you want. I mean, I remember you saying not just what you want, but what you don't want and how you want to feel. And I thought that was really interesting in that letter. And I thought, well, I don't know about sending it to an employer, but wow, did that really give you some clarity about what you wanted? And after you wrote that letter, it seemed like you had a weight lifted off of you, even before you didn't even send it.
Right. I mean, it just made me feel much, much better. And I think it's probably because I got clarity about what I wanted. I mean, I'm not feeling great right now just because I haven't negotiated the new contract for what I'm doing, but I did get offered everything that I want. Now, is it the pay structure I want? I don't know yet. Not what I was offered, so I've got to figure that out.
Yeah, well, at least this is the thing is when you say I didn't necessarily get what I wanted, the fact that you now know exactly what you want is clarity. Mm-hmm. Now, whether you get the outcome that you're hoping for, that's different. But the fact is you know what you want. So it's like you're going into a negotiation pretty clear about here's what I want. Whereas some people will go into maybe a negotiation and be like, I don't know what I want.
Right. Exactly.
And be all over the place.
Well, you should never go into a negotiation without knowing what you want and what you're also not willing to put up with,
Exactly. All right. So here's some other ones to explore your values. Meditation. I'm not a fan of meditation. I sit there and like think of my to-do list all day, but sometimes I know people who love meditation and the clarity just sort of seeps in and comes to them. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about meditation? Can you do it?
No.
No, how come?
I can do it only like if I'm walking or something else, but I actually was talking to a domestic violence victim client yesterday who doesn't want to take, medication to deal with her anxiety. And I was like, well, you can take a little bit, just to take the edge off. So, because at this point, your mind is the one that's like, circling around, making everything worse. So maybe that will take that edge off, but she doesn't want to for various reasons. And so then I said meditation, and then she didn't hear me right. And I said meditation versus medication, right? So some people think meditation's better. I mean, I guess kind of hiking, fast, that's sort of meditative to me,
Right. Well, it was interesting. I went to some kind of session where they were talking about the fallacy of meditation is that somehow you're sitting on your floor with your legs crossed with candles and it's quiet. And then you sit there in silence and you clear your head for 20 minutes. And they said that meditation can show up in various ways. It doesn't have to show up like that. Some people meditate by letting their head fill with a million thoughts. And it's the reverse of what we've been taught meditation is, where they just let all the thoughts come in, because sometimes you get clarity by bombardment. And I know I do this when I'm hiking and walking by myself. I'll often have a lot of things come in my head and I'll get a lot of clarity, and I keep my notes app open on my phone when I'm out walking, and I'm constantly taking notes of some of the things that come to me. I get such great clarity because it's meditative for me, even though it's not this sort of picture of what meditation looks like.
Well, I guess it depends if you're a monk. I don't think monks would agree with that at all. So I guess
they don't have
that's the thing.
App?
Well, they do have cell phones, by the way. It's kind of funny to watch them with the cell phone, but in their robe, because, I was just in Thailand watching them wrap their robes for several ceremonies, and then they have a cell phone. In fact, for the elephant funeral, he was reading off all the chanting from a cell phone. Probably they have it on scrolls or whatever. But I think that that is true meditation. They created it. It came out of India, and the purpose is actually to clear your mind, to connect with the higher self and the connection amongst us as humans, right? So that's a different purpose than those monks and people who are doing that aren't trying to figure out if they want a different job or not.
No,
so you have to
not.
say why am I doing it? Right?
Right. And I mean, for everyday people, most people are meditating to get clarity on something.
To take the edge off.
Yeah.
Also, right.
Stress relief.
Calm themselves.
They're not necessarily all doing it just to connect with a higher power. I mean, some of them do, but there's also a lot of people will meditate just to kind of center themselves and those kind of things too. So, I mean, I think, it just depends on what you think of when it comes to kind of meditation. It's this idea of kind of clearing your mind and letting whatever happen. And so whether it's to connect with a higher power or it's to just get clarity, that's where I get most of my intuitive pings is when I'm out by myself and I just kind of let my mind just kind of be undistracted for a minute. I'm not talking to somebody or listening to music, and then I get these ideas in my head. And so for me, that is kind of connecting with a higher power because that's where I sometimes get my best ideas. But, so for our listeners, it's, whatever works, right? Whatever works for you.
Yeah, I feel like you don't have to force yourself to do something that other people are doing if you try it and it just doesn't work for you. I mean, I have to be doing action, right? Like, I feel like this past year I've been unhappier because I've become more sedentary. So, I have thought about, do I need something physical, or I have to make sure I do physical stuff before and after. I mean, I was much happier in Thailand doing physical labor during the day and then, legal stuff at night. I mean, that's exhausting, right? But I physical labor,
Yeah, absolutely. And that too is a way of stimulating your body too, and releasing certain chemicals that get you, all these things have a way of creating clarity. I think that the key is to try different things and see what provides clarity. And there's might be something that works really well in one context, and then you try it again in another one and it doesn't work at all, right? You're like,
right.
Why isn't this working?
Yeah. I mean, you got to try a bunch of things,
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, for me, the biggest clarity that I get usually comes just from my intuition. It comes from, messages that I get in my head, or gut feelings that I have, or something that just feels like I always say it like drops out of the sky. And sometimes things just drop out of the sky, and then I know exactly where the path I'm supposed to be on. It's not always been like that, and it isn't always like that. But if I have those, I usually try not to go against them. How's your intuition? Do you feel like it's pretty spot on?
Yes. Do you remember what happened yesterday? I had a horrible, horrible, horrible feeling of like I was the most anxious I've probably ever been in my life. Like I'm like, I cannot get out of this. Like, I feel so anxious, so anxious, so anxious. And then what was it? An hour later, I got a breakup text, or like not even a breakup. Like, I don't want to pursue this with you, even though the texts just prior to that were the total opposite. So I had just a sick feeling all day,
I know. You and I talked, and you really had an intuitive response. And I mean, I remember we've been talking about that prior to you getting that text. Like, why are you feeling anxious? It's not.
But how can I know? I just felt it, right? And you and I talked about it, and the I don't want to date you came out of nowhere, and it was to the contrary of what had just been sent. So logically, I shouldn't have been worried about that, right?
Exactly.
But I think that's the other thing. And I also told you that in Thailand, I said I got a meeting put on my calendar and they're going to fire me. And then it turned out I wasn't getting fired, but it gave me the opportunity to shift my job, right? But I knew it. I knew something was up. It's kind of hard to live in that space.
What, when you intuitively get messages and then you...
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of messages. Yeah. I mean, I have about people dying, and I know they're going to die. And I mean, then it happens, right? I mean, I don't know, like, okay, next week, but it has 3 people. And then when they die, I'm like, yeah, I knew that. Like, it's like a knowing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and also when you're like that, I think, like, I guess with those cases are not for me personally, but when it's related to me personally, like yesterday, and I was having that anxiety feeling all weekend. And I think that I knew this intuitively, this was coming, even though I didn't know it logically. And so I was high alert or anxious. And then it makes you act in ways that's where meditation can help, because it makes you act like I was working myself up. Then I was acting more crazy and more like feeling more crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
right. You were like playing into it when you didn't have to. It was like like a cycle.
Right.
You were getting anxious,
like
and you were acting anxious.
Me up.
Yeah.
But in the end, I was right. I was right to be concerned, because what I didn't want to happen happened, and I had no control over that,
But you could feel it. And so you had the clarity, even though it wasn't.
I knew something bad was coming.
So, I mean, that's when I think for our listeners out there is when you have a gut instinct of something, that's clarity coming to you. Even if it's not what you want to hear or know, you hear and know it. So acknowledge it, that it's there, or else it's going to blindside you, or it's, or you're going to end up feeling anxious like you did. I mean, I thought you were going to, for the last 3 or 4 days, I just was like, what is wrong with you? I mean, we've gone hiking and you're just like, I'm all over the place. I'm so anxious.
Right.
Practically
I was
shaking.
like like a jumping bean. Like, I was like, could not contain myself. And I even had super, super, super loving and pleasant moments with that person. And then bam. So I think we just have to trust our intuition.
Absolutely.
I mean, but that's the same about the job. I felt the same way about the job. And then it happened also. But like, how do we even, you know, how are we opening up to our intuition? I mean, is that something everybody can develop? I don't know. But, you know, there's that book, The Gift of Fear, that talks about, you know, your gut like feeling. So people like, oh, I don't want to act on my gut feeling because that might be insulting to someone. But it's there. It's a, you know, biological, it's a tool to help us avoid danger, right? So we should listen to it. It's really hard to listen to your intuition because oftentimes you want to override it because you don't like what it's telling you. Because like, oh, this chick is beautiful. She's so sweet. She's this, but it's like, niggling, ling in the back of your head. And then who wants to like give up on something before it starts? So.
Exactly. Well, I mean, here's the thing is, you know, you say, can everybody develop their intuition? Yeah, there's a lot of schools of thought out there that, yes, you can. But in order to develop it, you have to do exactly what you're talking about. You have to trust it. You really have to like not ignore it, not push it to the side, because the more you do that, you build walls around it and then it just stops coming to you. And that happened to me for a long time. And I had to go back and figure out how to trust my intuition. And so what I did was just find little things. Like if I was driving down the street and I felt like, I need to go forward and not to the right. I'm just feeling it. I would just go forward. I usually didn't know. I mean, maybe if I had turned to the right, I would have gotten in an accident. I will never know that, but I just tried to trust any little ping that I got to try to build it up. So the bigger ones would come, right? And the bigger ones now come. And now I trust them and I seek them out. And sometimes I put myself in spaces like walking where I know that I'm most primed to receive them.
Right.
You know, but it takes some effort because you're right. Why would you want to listen to something that's telling you what you don't want
to hear? Not to pursue something you want to see, right?
Exactly.
Or that you, like, I didn't. I mean, I knew it in deep down.
You did. You knew it deep down. Well,
all right, let's move on to work. That's less depressing.
Yes. Well, let's talk about, so we talked about values and desires, really kind of being in tune with yourself, trying some of these exercises to figure out what you really want. One of the things that I've done is that I wrote a personal mission statement, which was really cool. So I have a personal mission statement that I use for my values that really kind of guides a lot of the decisions that I make. So if I'm feeling like I'm in a place like I'm stuck, I look at my mission statement. I say, does this really align with my mission? And my mission statement, I've had it for 25 years maybe. It's lead my life with passion and integrity. And anybody who's ever met me knows that that's my life. I lead it. I don't live it. I lead it, which means I take action. Passion. I am passionate about so many things, like whether it's just playing basketball on the court or whether it's writing a book. I have so much energy and passion for life. And integrity. I don't cut corners. I always follow through. I try to be as like honest and forthcoming as I can, sometimes to a fault. But at the same time, that's how I want to live my life. And I've actually left jobs and relationships because they didn't align with those values in my mission statement. And so once you have that, it can help provide clarity because you can always just say, all right, I'm going to like, is this making me feel passionate? Is this making me feel like I'm leading a life of integrity? And if the answer is no, then there's a lot of questioning you need to do.
Right.
Do you have 100%. a personal mission statement at all?
Yeah. Didn't I write it like 2 weeks ago?
Did you?
Before I went to Thailand, it was like, my soul is here to heal people. I mean, I'm here just to help. Like that's been my whole thing since I was a kid, or since I was, even a kid, but like as an adult child, you know, becoming a police officer, my whole purpose was to help people. And then when I felt like I wasn't helping because I became jaded, I left because I didn't want to do that. Then I worked at domestic violence shelter. I worked at, I became a lawyer, you know, to help people. And I help people. That's my whole goal in life. Yeah. And I've helped people in my personal life as well who had issues similar to the ones I used to have. But I'm finding that painful because I get involved with people that aren't where they, you know, I am. And so then I get hurt. So that, I think going forward, I'm going to try to lessen, you know.
Well, I remember one of the things you said when you were writing that mission statement, or I do remember that because I didn't even think about it as a mission statement at the time. But now that you say it, is this idea of just helping people, But when you got down to it and you wrote about it, it was about helping them heal themselves. And I remember that's really different than just generally helping people. That goes back to the same idea of like making money. What does that mean? And for you, helping people means helping them heal, right? And heal from trauma, heal from grief, heal from really difficult situations. And that seems to be like the beacon. So if you look at like what you want to do with your career, if it isn't doing that, then you're not in alignment.
Right.
If you're in relationships where you're helping other people heal, but to the detriment of yourself, then that's not in alignment.
Okay, you know what's interesting? One, that's what I want to do. That's where I want my work to be. So even though I can help people as a lawyer, right, it's not the highest. Like, I want to help them heal from that divorce after the fact. I want them to move forward, to go forward in life without, then wrecking everything that comes in front of them because they're still can't get over that. But that's the interesting thing about me and dating because, I have done a lot of therapy since I got divorced. I mean, I was with that therapist when I was in that relationship, but I've done a lot since I got divorced, and I've dated now 4 people, or I don't even know if you called the last one dating, whatever it was, who have a lot of trauma. And when I name that, it freaks them out. Like, because none of them had been processed or really been to therapy or really understood it. And so I'm like this seer. I'm like an oracle, and that doesn't go well with dating because people don't like to see that, even though it will be helpful for them. And maybe after the relationship, they'll seek that. But, sometimes they just don't. And sometimes those people don't want that, so I don't want it. I'm going to say it to the universe. I don't want that to be a part of I want it to be part of my work life or my mission, but not on a personal level. On a personal level, I want to be with someone who's done all of the work, who really, truly understands themselves and can have that, not, run away. Like, I don't want to do it anymore, universe. I don't want to have that in my personal life where I'm that person for them that I see, because I pointed out some things the other day to this person, and they're all true and they're really hard to hear. And it's nothing that person did. It's what happened to them, and like, I think that cuts people. Like, if they're not ready, to be at that place, right? Or it's too painful. So,
But that's super good clarification. You want to help people heal and heal themselves in like a work
not
setting.
Like somebody I'm dating. Exactly.
Right. Like in a work setting where they come to you and they're ready for it. They're open to it. They can hear what you have to say. But in a dating situation, and even in some friendships, we've talked about this as the wounded deer thing, where you see someone struggling and you like, well, great, I'm going to befriend them, or I'm going to date them, and then I'm going to help them. And it's very altruistic, but you're right. It's not your life's work to do that.
Well, it's because it hurts me too much.
Yeah.
On
and
a
it hurts them
level.
Because they don't want to hear it either. It's, and so finding someone who's kind of at your space and your level and doing the work.
Yeah. Like that woman, that we talked to about the divorce mediation stuff, like, who's doing all that work, who's going and doing the ayahuasca. And like, I will have to date going forward people who are at that higher place who've done that work. And it's not being snotty or anything, but this last one, like, I mean, very short-lived, but so painful, And if you're doing it as work, it's not painful because, you can separate. You can't separate your personal life from yourself.
No, not if you want to have a good personal life, No. So know this for your job, that you want to help people heal, right? Not just help people, because you can help people in a lot of ways. You want to help people heal. It's your job, but that in your personal life, you want people who are already healing themselves.
Yes, or already healed.
Or
it's like,
healed,
I don't care. That's the thing. Like, I understand that so many people have been traumatized by stuff. This world is like a traumatic place to be, but have done the work to understand what is their reaction to those traumas. And when they encounter somebody new or how somebody's doing something, that there are going to be triggers, and that it's okay to be triggered, but it's not okay to run away. It's not okay to hurt somebody else, in this fear response. Just deal with it. Right. So I can only going forward be with somebody who actually has done that work.
Right. And
Truly.
then knowing that when you go into maybe a coaching session, somebody who hasn't done that work, they're going to do those behaviors not with you. Right. And they're going to have
It's not going to hurt me personally.
Right. You're going to help them try to mitigate those behaviors, but you're not going to be the victim of them while they're learning on the job.
And that's why I want out of litigation, because while I'm helping them and I'm, doing things in court that will help them, I'm not helping them to get to like I'm helping them with that concrete. But what I want to help them is to get to a place where they are happier, where they, in spite of these, I don't want to be involved in the conflict. I only want to be involved in the healing.
Okay. That's really good. Remember that.
I know.
Right. I don't want to be involved in the conflict. I only want to be involved in the healing. That is really, really clear.
Right. And back to the thing, when I got that text yesterday, I did say, can we talk? And then I texted one thing. That was it. It was, I'm really sorry. I'm disappointed. I'm not sure what I did. But then I didn't continue to engage. I want to be in a healthier place. I want to be healthier. And so even while doing that myself, I'm learning, okay, because the old me would have engaged. I would have tried. I would have done, I'm not doing that anymore. So, that also, as we heal ourselves, we stop those patterns of engagement that other people, whether they want you to chase them or whatever they're doing, or they're acting completely inconsistently than they were 4 hours earlier. To not, yes, it hurt me, but I did not take it so personally that I needed to get all wrapped up in it. I felt like, of course, I would at least respond back. Can we talk? But that would be weird if I just was like, okay, and never commented. But that's also one of my things, going forward in life. I don't want this is ghosting, right? People are ghosting. They're ghosting jobs, what's that called? Silent quitting, not being able to talk. I had a friend over yesterday and she was complaining about this. I have this little side job and I'm like, just quit. Oh my God, you're retired. What are you doing? You're here cranky. Why are you so cranky? And why are you so cranky about this? And if you're going to get these messages pop up on your phone, just quit. You don't need it. Right. And it's we all should learn how to talk better, talk to each other in every setting. It's very interesting to me, how I just can't figure out, have we changed as a society? Are we changed as a people? Because even so, yes, ghosting's been around forever and all that, but most people used to be able to talk to each other. I don't feel like people can talk to each other anymore.
No, I don't think that they can. But see, that's where your coaching is going to come into play and help people develop those skills, right? Those skills to be able to understand themselves, heal themselves, be able to talk to people, to be able to confront their own stuff without running from it. And all of those things are part of that healing process. And as you're going through it and having to contend with how it impacts you, you're getting more and more emboldened to make sure that you're showing up for people, particularly career-wise, showing up for people to maybe do that for them and help them. And now, now you can sort of get yourself out of being in that situation where you have to continue to, experience that and help other people as they experience this. And so you actually answered my question, which was for you, let's look back at your career, this idea of how do you know what unstuck looks like? And you answered this question. It's not dealing with not helping them through the conflict, but helping them through the healing, right? How do you know what unstuck looks like? So describe that a little bit more. Not dealing with the conflict, but dealing with the healing. Describe that more.
Well, are you talking in specifics to my job being a lawyer?
In your job.
I could stay in this litigation, okay, which is fighting back and forth. It's not all fighting. It can be helpful, right? But there are a lot of people who just want conflict with you. And if you're in that job, that's what you have to do. And so, I guess I look at it, same as in the police department, there were a lot of aspects of that job that I loved, but there were some that were so dark or pulling me down to a place I didn't want to be. And it's the same with litigation. It's pulling me down to a place I don't want to be with this, nasty emails from these lawyers at me. And it's gosh, these are just our clients. But then I get riled up on behalf of my client. And so as a lawyer, I don't have the full story. I have my client's story, and then I will see evidence, from the other side. But I'd rather help these people, if possible, together to move forward. And if not, then just work with the people on their own to move themselves forward in life.
Okay, that's good, really good clarity. So let me ask you this. Tell me 3 feelings that you want to feel if you were doing this work that you really feel passionate about, helping others heal. How would you feel doing that?
During the work day?
Yeah, just during the work day. Or how would you feel what kind of feelings do you want to feel about your job? Do you want to feel like a sense of inner peace?
Happiness.
Okay, happiness.
Satisfaction.
Okay.
And that what I'm doing serves a higher purpose.
Okay.
I'm almost like a religious person, with a ministry. But I'm not religious. I'm a Buddhist, but I'm not religious. I always thought, gosh, I'd make a really good pastor, but I don't believe in any of that. So it's hard. I couldn't even fake it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want to minister in a way. I want to help people. It's so funny though to say that, and then it's I just got slapped down. It's then you go into all this, are you worthy? And I think that's part of being unstuck. Who am I to talk to people about healing your higher self when I can't even keep a girlfriend or get one?
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's definitely, I can understand where it's coming from, but your ability to help others doesn't necessarily mean that that's always going to reflect the people that come into your world and do things to you. That's right. Always going to happen, right? It's like getting upset that a security guard got, beaten up outside of a bar by 10 people who jumped them and say, well, what kind of security guard are you? So carrying that around, it's a legitimate fear, but in your case, you are very clear about the kinds of things that would help with healing. You talked about happiness, so your own personal happiness. You want satisfaction, so knowing that what you're doing kind of
matters, right? Making a difference,
right?
Or in that person's life, right?
Yeah.
That makes a difference in that person's life, that they're actually getting healing. It's helping them.
Yes.
What I'm doing is helping them.
And then, if you were to even expand to more feelings, you might say you want kind of conflict free. You don't want intense, you don't want to be around.
I don't want the person to get on the Zoom and then be I want, we're working together. So I want to be working together with that person. I don't want to be in opposition.
Okay, good. Okay, so you want to be a partner with
them. A partner.
And so these are some of the things that are clarity, right? What is it you want to feel? Because sometimes we choose things to do that don't align with how we feel, right? If you wanted to feel these things and then you picked a job that totally didn't align with that at all, then you have to ask yourself, okay, what's more important, the job or the feeling? And so for you, these are the feelings that you want to have. For me, I know that one of the feelings I want to have goes back to the value of my mission statement is passion. I have been in jobs where the stuff I started to, the projects I was working on were just, they didn't fuel my fire. And I had a really hard time authentically kind of making it look like I cared. And every time I got an email about it, I'd be like, oh, and every time, it was I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to do this. And so what do I want to feel? I want to feel a sense of passion and connection to know that whatever I'm investing my time and energy in, it fuels my fire. And often what fuels my fire is making a difference for other people, educating them, getting the word out. That's why I speak and I teach. And so for me, those are very clear feelings for me. And I have gotten myself out of things that don't elicit those feelings. Sometimes we have to do things we're not passionate about. I do have to do some paperwork at work. I get it. Nobody feels passionate about grading. I've never met a professor that does. But at the same time, do I feel passionate about connecting with my students and giving them feedback to help them learn? Yeah. So maybe that. So, okay, so we know what you're feeling.
But you've always been very good at doing that, knowing what you want, right? And making sacrifices that in the long run help you. But how did you come to, do you think you just are that person? Are you making skills, or is that just who you are?
I think I'm a relative risk taker. Sometimes people don't see it because I do it so quietly. But I try things, and if they don't work or they don't feel right, I don't do them anymore, or I change course. And some people stick with things longer than they they should. And like I said, I've done this, and I've talked about this. I've done this in past relationships where I've stuck with things longer than I should. But in my professional world, I usually don't stick with something that I don't feel good about. I try something else. And that I don't know if it's a skill set as much as it's just a resilience of just fail and get back up, fail and get back up, or don't like it and leave it and change it and, do something different. And that thick skin has allowed me to really say, okay, what is it that I want? And trust that if I'm doing something that I don't want, if I get out of it, I can make something that I do want happen.
Mm-hmm.
But some people don't have that faith in themselves for whatever reason. And the faith doesn't mean I'm any more likely to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
It just means I'm more likely to take the chance to try.
Right.
And I
See, those are all good.
Yeah. So
you're like a living example of what to do.
Professionally, yes. I have real great clarity.
Well, we'll talk about personal later, but yes, professionally, yes.
Professionally, yes. And it's funny because you and I have talked for a while now about how I can do this professionally, but I haven't been able to do it personally.
I don't agree with you. We don't agree on that. I think you've done very well.
Personally?
And look at our relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, who was I talking to yesterday? And they were like, was it my sister this morning? She's straight. So she has a husband, right? And she's like, straight women don't get like what you're trying to get out of a woman, out of their husband. They just accept that their friends are that. And she's like, you have such good friends and you have such a good network of people. And I'm like, but I can't have sex with them.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I was like, well, I do want something, but it's true that the person that I want to be with in that romantic way, I also want to be similar to my friends in that supportive. Like my sister was like, you want this connection with somebody that, straight women generally don't have with their husband, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't see you as unsuccessful in your personal life at all. I mean, do you look at me and see me as unsuccessful? I mean, you didn't.
No.
I mean, I had long-term relationships. I had loving relationships with, people I'm now friends with. And, but then I had a series of 4 just total, what I would consider to be extremely painful experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But
even, we've talked about it. I don't even consider that unsuccessful or failed. You put yourself out there, right? You tried, you loved hard, you showed up in your most authentic way, and they just weren't good fits.
Right.
And so there is nothing wrong with that. And so, again, using those kinds of terms, I don't think my personal life has been unsuccessful at all. I just think I'm more bold in my professional life. I think I take more chances.
But we're getting there to be bold in your personal life.
In my personal life.
And now we're finally aligned at being single. And the other day you thought, we're not going to be, but lo and behold, somebody else had different plans for me.
Exactly. Well,
and that's the thing. I think the same as getting unstuck in a job or in a relationship or whatever. Like, I'm not going to be stuck in this hurt. I am hurt. I'm super hurt by what happened, but I'm not going to be stuck in it. I'm going to move on with my life. And that's the same with the job. Like, if that job wasn't working and it was making me sick, I need to get out. And that's, I look back at the police department all the time. I was there from 1994 to 2002. I loved 80% of the aspects of it, but 20% of that job was making me sick and like unhappy. And it affected the core of who I am as a human being. And I left, and I've spent 20 something years looking back like, oh my God, all my friends have more money. They all retired. But I have something else, and that's been complete freedom, health, and mental well-being that they don't have. Mm-hmm. And so they're taking more vacations now than I can afford to, but I take the vacations that I want that are trips to the sanctuary, right? Mm-hmm. And so life is just a series of decisions that you have to make. And sometimes these decisions are made for you by other people. And those are really painful, be it getting fired or, whatever. But usually that's an opening to something else.
Absolutely. And sometimes it provides the clarity you need to go do what you need to do. I remember when I was working, I I was working at the University of Arizona, and I had my contract renewed for 6 months because they were going to consolidate my position with someone else's, and they didn't need 2 directors. So they said, you got 6 months. We're going to keep the other director and not you. And I was like, oh my gosh, but I've been here for over a decade and la, 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 la. But my dream had always been to be a professor. And I would not have gone off after being a professor really, really wholeheartedly had that not happened to me. So someone else made that decision, but I'm like, I'm not going to get stuck finding some job I don't want and being resentful that this happened to me. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to say, I was slightly stuck before. I didn't realize it, right? I wasn't fully stuck because I enjoyed the job, but I was slightly stuck because I wasn't reaching my dream. And I went out and eventually within about 18 months, I had a professor job. And then I was like completely unstuck from that life. And I didn't realize how stuck I was until I look back. Like what you're talking about. It's like hindsight is 20/20. Sometimes you don't realize, like when you've been looking back at the police thing with this fondness of, I want to go back, or I should have, or whatever. And the further away you're getting from it and the more you're talking about it, the more you're realizing that isn't a life that you wanted to continue. And that is not a life that you want to do now. And
and I just went back and saw several people and I thought, my God, this would have not been good for me. I don't live that way. I'm not like that. And I want freedom that I could never have had with that job.
Exactly. So
do I want the money? Sure.
Well, it's interesting because I was reading an article this morning and it was talking about a couple things. This one that I think is really interesting is taking action before you have clarity. So sometimes we just have to just take a chance, even if we're not entirely sure what we want to do, just take a chance. I mean, you don't want to like blow up your life, but take a chance. If you're not sure, for instance, like, I went out on a date a long time ago. It was my first date after my breakup, and I thought maybe I was more ready than I was. And then I was very clear that I wasn't. And I thought I was. I wasn't like trying to date somebody knowing that I wasn't ready. But I realized I took action before I had clarity about whether I was ready. And I realized I wasn't. And I got clarity very quickly. And I, talked to the person and, we ended up staying friends. But sometimes you just have to take action as a way of getting clarity. Right. Like how did that action feel when you did it? Did it feel weird or awkward, or did it feel like a good fit, or you're on the right track? So sometimes we just have to act. We just have to do it. Like if you're not sure, Tracy, that coaching is in your future, even though you say you want it, just coach a couple people.
Right.
See how it feels. You don't have to commit to having a full-blown business. Just coach 2 people and see how it feels.
Right. Okay, get me the business.
All you got to do is put it out there on Facebook.
I know. Assistant. I need an assistant.
No, you need to just do it.
Right.
An assistant is an excuse.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later today. Okay. What else?
Okay. So another thing, there was this idea of simplifying your life. I know you're a minimalist. I like to be as minimal as I possibly can, without having lots of clutter around and those kind of things. And so it's interesting. Sometimes when you want to get clarity, if you just simplify, like you tidy up an area of your house, or you don't, like for me, I declutter my brain by decluttering my house. So I'll make a Goodwill run and drop things off just so I can feel like I'm taking action, even though I'm not like doing exactly what it was that I'm trying to seek clarity on. I'm at least doing something, changing my circumstance. And then sometimes you just have to live in ambiguity and don't beat yourself up for it. Like it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. It's okay if you're indecisive. You don't want to stay in that state forever, but like it's okay to not. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, and I've done this myself, and you called me on it, and another friend of mine called me on it, was don't talk yourself into clarity just because you want it.
Right.
And I did that in a dating situation where I thought I had great clarity. And you had actually said to me, you want clarity, but you don't have clarity. And just because you say you want it doesn't mean you have it.
Interesting.
And I said, yes, it does. And then I fought you on that. So let's think about your job situation right now. What kinds of things have you taken action on before you've had total clarity of what you want to do, to see if there's something that might help you kind of determine where your next steps are?
Well, I think I had clarity about what I didn't want. So when I was asked, I was really honest. And I said, I hate this job. I fucking hate it. Get me out of here. I hate it. And so, but that's happened to me twice where I've been asked that by a supervisor and I was honest. And then I either stayed on for a couple months and helped them, but I didn't have the pressure of like, oh God, this is going to be my life, or it's morphed into something else. So yeah, I'm lucky that way, but I do think that's because I have really put it out there, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're taking action is having an honest conversation with the stakeholder. In both cases, your boss, just being totally honest. Like, I'm not sure.
Right.
You know, and that can be helpful.
Right.
You know, and think about it in like a dating situation is, you know, if you're not sure if that person's kind of a good fit, you can keep that to yourself, or you can say, I'm really nervous about this relationship. I'm scared. I haven't been in one in a while. And, you know, let's talk through it. So we know whether we're a good fit. I mean, I would honestly much more welcome that conversation than someone having those feelings and then not saying something to me.
Right.
Where they take action and just have radical honesty.
Radical honesty. I don't know that all people like that, but.
No, but that's the thing. Is like the other thing is who likes that? You like that. I like that. We can have very radical honesty with each other, but some people like that. So, all right. So I'm going to leave with this one question for you.
Okay.
You were to have a vision statement. Okay. What does your ideal life look like in 2 years? Imagine imagine an ideal day 2 years from now. You have exactly what you want in this world. What does your day look like?
Wow. My God, you're putting me on the spot. My day? I have enough money to go to the elephant sanctuary 3 times a year, and I have somebody who will watch my dogs when I go, and I have a job that's maybe created by me that's advising people, coaching people, helping people. And I am dating someone who's actually securely attached and understands my journey, and I can understand their journey, and that we support each other.
Okay. That's
great. What it looks like. I don't want much in this world.
No?
You know, like I don't want a jet. I don't want that stuff. I mean, I'm fine shoving myself into a window seat for a 12-hour flight in the back of the plane. I don't care. I just want to be there. I want, to be happy in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want.
Just happiness.
I don't want people jerking me around anymore either.
Okay. So some of that is circumstantial, right? Is interacting with the right people, and some of it's your mindset, how you interpret and react. Okay. So our listeners out there, think about what does your ideal life look like in 2 years? Just walk yourself through a day in the life.
And what's yours? Yours looks just like it does now because you're pretty much living your ideal life, aren't you?
That is true. It does look very much like it does now. The only difference is, I would like to be partnered at some point, but I would like it to be where like we get up in the morning and we both have kind of a similar lifestyle in terms of like when we get up, when we go to bed, the kinds of things we do. Somebody, with a real flexible schedule too, so that we can maybe go hiking on a Wednesday or whatever we're going to do. Just having that freedom, the financial freedom and the physical freedom to go do what I want to do. At 2 years from now, my kid won't be living with me. So it will be, just me and whoever. And other than that, it's a lot of what it looks like today. I get like,
we're going to be in a Boston marriage or whatever. No, what will we be in?
What is it?
Well, Boston marriage was like lesbians and that nobody knew they were lesbians or something like that. But we'll be in a, platonic marriage. I mean, we can, all the things that you want, I can do except for my dogs.
Well,
except you and I don't necessarily want to go to you haven't been to the sanctuary yet, though. Maybe you'll love it.
Been to the sanctuary. No, but
maybe you'll love it.
I want to do adventures. So, I mean, I'm open to whatever, but that's the only thing that I would want. I don't feel like it's missing because I'm not seeking it right now, but I think in 2 years, maybe having someone to do those things with, but I've got a lot of great friends. I have a very booming social life. I have a very booming intellectual and cultural life. I really just don't feel like anything is missing. I don't think
anything's missing from your life. It's a pretty happy life.
I love my life. So
you like your work, you like your friends, you like your activities, Yeah. You're an example to us all. I'm almost there, and I've been there. I'm more like a person on a roller coaster, up and down. But again, that's what I'm saying. And this all goes back to Coach Dorothy. My life is a sundae, and the person on top is just a cherry. So if they fall off, my life is not upended.
That's true.
And I am emotionally upended for like a few days over what just happened to me, but I am committed to not letting that derail me or let me like not meet other people. Okay, so one person hurt me, you know?
Right, exactly.
That's one person.
Exactly.
I'm not giving that person the power to hurt me more or to derail what I want.
Mm-hmm. They're value added to your wonderful, fulfilled life.
Yes, exactly. Perfect.
Exactly. So we will end on that note because there's lots of ways to seek clarity. There's lots of ways to validate the clarity that you already have. So whatever works for you, try it out. Keep doing it. Flip the coin. Write a vision statement. Talk to Tracy. You're her new coaching practice that she's launched.
That's right.
Anyway.
It'll be out by the time this comes out. Blue Lotus Mindset and Empowerment Coaching.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to all of our listeners out there, until our next episode, go out there and rock those relationships. If you liked what you heard, check out our show notes for resources from today's episode. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram under Rock That Relationship and go to our website at rockthatrelationship.com for updated episodes and more great information.
Thanks for listening. Now go rock those relationships.